What's up YouTube? Alex Killian here, and today we're talking 360 video. Now 360 video is really nothing new. It's been almost 4 years now since YouTube added support for 360 video streaming, and consumer level 360 cameras have been getting better and cheaper every year. But despite all this, I still feel like we've just barely scratched the surface on what this technology is capable of. Now, I've been fooling around with 360 video for a couple of years now, and I am by no means an expert. But today I want to share the 5 main ways I found to shoot 360 video. Let's get into it. So first of all, let's talk about the camera. In case you don't already know, 360 video works by using multiple super wide angle lenses. Now the higher end 360 cameras have up to 6 lenses, but most consumer level cameras have 2, each covering somewhere around 200 degrees of view. And then either in editing or in camera, the footage from those 2 lenses is stitched together to create one 360 degree image. 360 cameras come in a variety of designs and price points. You can spend anywhere between $50,000 and $6,000 on a 360 camera, but for this video I'll be talking about the lower end of that spectrum because, let's face it, most of us aren't that rich. The camera I've been using is the Insta360 One, but these things will apply to pretty much any consumer level 360 camera. So with that, let's get into the 5 ways to shoot 360. Shooting 360 for virtual reality can be fairly easy or extremely complex depending on the type of content you're shooting. Now the easiest way to shoot 360 for VR is to shoot static, with your camera on a tripod in a fixed position, allowing your viewers to look around and observe the scene unfolding in front of them. Honestly, I could probably make a whole video about shooting for VR because there's a lot that goes into it, but this is just one of the 5 ways to shoot 360 video, so here's just a few quick considerations when you're shooting for VR. First of all, you need to decide if the camera is a character. Do you want the people in your VR scene to be speaking directly to the viewer, or is the viewer more of an observer? This decision will determine a lot about where you place your camera in your scene. What's in your scene? In VR, your viewer can look all around, so you have to make sure your set looks good all around. And this makes things like art direction and lighting a way bigger challenge than in traditional filmmaking. I've tried to stay away from moving the camera at all when I'm shooting for VR because this is a particular challenge. If you want the camera to move, it has to be extremely smooth, because shaky camera movements in VR can literally make your viewers sick. Now most consumer level 360 cameras are 4K resolution, but what a lot of people don't realize is that means the entire image is 4K. But when you're viewing a 360 video in VR, you're only seeing a small portion of the overall image, meaning that in VR, you're seeing the quality a lot lower than 4K. And this definitely makes things not as much fun to watch in VR, not as immersive. So obviously these consumer level 360 cameras aren't ideal for shooting for VR. I'm sure that in the coming years we'll be getting better quality on consumer level 360 cameras, but until then, we do what we can. Flat is a cropped view of your 360 degree footage, showing a flat image like you'd get with any regular camera. There aren't many reasons why you'd want to view your 360 footage flat. It'll be lower resolution, and you'd be better off just shooting your flat footage on a camera meant for shooting flat footage. But flat footage on a 360 camera can be cool because in editing you can transition from a regular looking shot to something crazy like a tiny plant. The The tiny planet effect warps your footage to show the entire 360-degree field of view in one flattened frame. And you can get a ton of different tiny planet looks depending on the angle you're holding the camera and the distance of the camera from your subject. Now, a monopod that's the same width as your camera is absolutely essential to get a variety of tiny planet looks. And this works so well because the only spot the 360 camera doesn't see is directly below it. So when it's connected to a monopod, no matter what direction you point in, the stick will always be invisible. Wide angle is pretty much anything between flat and tiny planet. Now, the only thing that makes wide angle on a 360 camera different from a wide angle shot on any other camera is that you can actually adjust how wide you want your shot in post. And once again, a monopod will come very much in handy when trying to get a variety of wide angle 360 shots. A traditional bullet time shot is captured using a rig with dozens of cameras surrounding the subject. And then by using one frame from each camera in sequence, the bullet time effect is created. 360 cameras hack this process. By spinning the camera around your head, the 360 camera uses gyroscopic stabilization, slow motion, and a fixed center point to create the same sort of effect. Once again, consumer level 360 cameras aren't great for this because the slow motion resolution is not great. However, you can still experiment with this effect and get some really cool looking bullet time shots. Now, the best part about 360 video is that you don't have to be stuck in one of these modes of shooting. You can transition your shot from a flat image to a wide angle to a tiny planet in post without adjusting anything about how your footage was shot. And this is where the creativity comes in. There are infinite combinations and effects you can get with 360 video. The medium of 360 video is still fairly new, so it's up to people like you and me to experiment and really find out everything this technology is capable of. Now, this is certainly not an exact science. You have to experiment. Mix and match these 5 shooting styles and see what different effects you can create. Now, like I said, editing is really what makes these effects possible. So next week I'm going to be doing a 360 video editing tutorial to show you how to actually pull off all the effects you saw in this video. So if you're interested, please come back for that. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe, throw me that like, leave a comment, share it with your friends, all that stuff. And I will see you next time.